Hi, my topic today is about no discrimination against all, specifically the cases of sexual minorities. Before we dig deep into that topic, it's best we understand the term sexual minorities and what it means. Sexual minorities include a variety of gender and sexual identities that deviate from the cultural norm. They're best known to be today as lesbian, gays, transgender, and even intersexual individuals. Existing international human rights laws didn't protect victims from discrimination, despite the fact that Article 1 of the Human Rights Declaration states that all humans are born free and equal in dignity and rights. This article itself pushes back any distinction that has to do with race, color, political opinion, sex, or even religion. But history didn't prove the credibility of this article. For instance, black and women are still being discriminated against somewhere, somehow today. And also, throughout history, we witnessed many ethnic conflicts that have to do with canceling one another. And the best example is the Jewish Holocaust. Across the world, discriminatory laws and policies affect the rights and well-being of LGBT people. The issues range from legal recognition of the same-sex marriage to the prescription of the death penalty as a punishment for the same-sex sexual activity or even just identity. The exclusion of LGBT people from human rights protection also arises from policies on a wide range of issues. For example, LGBT adoption, military service, anti-discriminatory laws, and even hate crime laws regarding violence against LGBT people. Across the world, LGBT people are considered targets for religious extremists, extreme nationalists, and others, along with family and community members. Until very recently, even the human rights organizations traditionally excluded LGBT issues from their agendas. LGBT rights issues were neglected or muted in the activism of major human rights organizations such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. Exclusionary barriers exist in every region of the world. A lot of LGBT people seek asylum outside their home countries to escape the brutality and discrimination. In Africa and the Middle East, homosexuality is punished with long-term imprisonment and even the death penalty. But yet, even in Western countries like America and Canada, LGBT also face abuse and discrimination. Yes, there has been modest important developments in the direction of LGBT when it comes to the framework of human rights. In 2011, the UN passed its first resolution recognizing LGBT rights, including hate crimes and criminalization of homosexuality and discrimination. My video's intent here is to bring to light the violation of basic human rights of this community and the need for provision of equal opportunities and protection of rights like any other law-abiding citizen. LGBT go through extreme social exclusion, discrimination, stigma, and diminished self-esteem and the sense of social responsibility. Sexual minorities recognize that they are different from the majority others. During their adolescence, many of them end up in marital heterosexual relationships against their will because of family and societal pressure. These marriages often end up in marital disharmony, divorce, or continue with the poor quality of life. Legal inheritance is often denied by their family members. They are not allowed inside the premises of educational institutions. Hence, illiteracy is very common among the sexual minority. They are not considered for government jobs. Even if they have a job, they are suspended from the job once their gender or identity of sexual orientation is revealed. They are not allowed inside hotels, hospitals, cinema halls, and government offices, as indeed in most public spaces. Discrimination and non-friendly environment at workplace force them to take up begging and prostitution for their livelihood. Now, when we look at that certain quality of life, we see that these people are being discriminated even worse than you could treat animals. Because if you're excluding them from any place basically in society or putting them as you are the superior to them, then they don't have this urge to live as much as any other human being. Moreover, sexual minorities find it difficult to get a house on rent and frequently change their residence. This is difficult for them to produce proof of their residence. There has been multiple instances in which they had to approach the court for getting medical certificates. They also get excluded in the population census. All that, they are a non-existent or an invisible community who do not get included in any social or health policy. All this contributes to one thing: greater risk for developing emotional disorders because of the stigma and discrimination. The suicide risk has been shown to be greatly elevated for men in same-sex partnerships. Transgender were forced out of their homes or chose to leave their home because of parental rejection or the fear of rejection, increasing the risk of homelessness, poverty, and associated negative sequelae. They are physically, verbally, and sexually abused, which gets manifested as depression, panic attacks, suicidal ideation, and so on. This psychological distress also causes a lot of body image disturbance and eating disorders. Sexual minority adolescents leave home more frequently in search for their identity. They're basically lost and are victimized and forced for sex more often. They use highly addictive substances more frequently to overcome their sorrows and have more sexual partners than any heterosexual counterpart. Moreover, media has played a very crucial role in creating this negative environment or image for these people. Media often sees them as the different kind of citizens or humans, you could say, and not until recently media has started to give and take or be more balanced about their opinions about this community as a whole. Today, the world faces what I call a different kind of terrorism, homophobia, and it's a shared challenge among a lot of countries in the world. We all have a role, whether as students, family members, teachers, religious figures, etc., to urge that states are legally obliged to protect their citizens from this type of violence and unfairness. Homophobic bullying of young people constitutes as a grave violation for human rights. Gradually, states are coming to see that the commitments to eliminate discrimination are enshrined in the Declaration of Human Rights since the start, and it has to apply to everyone with no exception. Not just heterosexuals, but also gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders, intersex people, and so on. Discriminating against LGBT is as bad as discriminating against Black people or even Muslims. And whatever the problem is, violence is not the answer. I did mention there has been a modest development when it comes to LGBT with human rights, but there's still a long way there to actually come to equality. Even in Lebanon, we have an organization called Intersos. It has to do with helping LGBT runaways, as we could say, from Arab countries that are being threatened to be killed by their own parents just for having a sexual opinion or orientation, or just because who they want to love does not match the cultural norm. So what we as people have to spread love and awareness of acceptance before spreading anything else, because once we learn how to accept one another, this is when we can integrate in a way and accept differences. And this in the Arab world especially is very hard to do and must be worked on, because as I mentioned, whatever the problem is, violence is not the answer. Thank you.